Welcome to another episode of Hardcat Feature Focus. In this episode, we're going to show you the Hardcat purchase order invoicing function. To access your invoices, we first of all have to go to our list of purchase orders, which is via our purchase order icon, or via the list menu, purchase orders. To receive an invoice against a purchase order, we first of all have to select the purchase order which it's being raised against. Today, we're raising against purchase order 23. To raise an invoice against purchase order number 23, we have to click on the Invoice button. From here, this will show us any pre-assigned invoices or pre-created invoices against this purchase order, or we can go and create a new one or edit an existing one. To create a new invoice, we first of all click the New button. When we're creating an invoice record, we're recording the supplier's invoice number, the description of the invoice amount x tax, the invoice amount x freight including tax, the tax amount, any freight totals, and the invoicing date. We also can import the file to the Files tab of the invoice. The invoice number, as based around the invoice that was sent to us from our supplier, is 123456, with an invoice date of the 1st or payment date of the 1st to the 12th, 2017. So we go 123456, description, PCs, and installation. The invoice date is the 1st of the 12th, 2017. We then need to go and find out what our invoice amount is and our tax amount. We'll go back to our invoice and we find out our invoice amount is $6,662.26. And our tax amount is $605.66 as well. Now that we put these two items in there, we can press OK to save our invoice record. Now that it's saved, we can import our invoice file by going Import. We've now imported our invoice file. By having this in here, any assets that we associate to this invoice record, we can then directly click through to open up this invoice and open up the file to review the file. We can press OK to save. Now that we have our invoice created in the system, we can assign the assets, stock, and other services and items associated to that invoice by clicking the Assign button. This now gives us a list of all the items that are associated to our invoice: delivered items, undelivered items, stock, and services. So we can either go through and select them individually and say units invoiced if they're associated to this invoice, or if all these items are associated to this one invoice, we can go all invoiced. What this will do is say that this will mark the items as being invoiced at the bottom. It also will give you a reconciliation at the bottom to say the total amount was invoiced and also the balancing. This way you can see then if there's any discrepancies straight away based around the invoice amount that the supplier has given you versus the items that you're associating to this invoice, to see if you need to make any changes or refer back to your supplier. But for this invoice, everything matched up. We can now press close to reconcile this as being a fully qualified invoice. If necessary, we can also go back into our invoice once this has been completed and go to our payable section. If we are ready to authorize payment, we can specify the payment's been authorized, the date we're authorizing the payment for, who it's been authorized by, how we intend to pay that method, the date it's due, and a reference number. Once it's been processed, we can mark it being processed and put our internal reference number as to the payment processing. We can now go to look at these assets in the system to see that the invoice information that has been updated on the asset record. So we'll close out of this area and we'll go back to our assets list. Area Assets. We're going to look for purchase order number 23. So to do that, we can go to our purchase order field, click on plus and is equal to, and we found our purchase order number 23. As all these items have been invoiced, if we'll open up our record, we can see now that these are associated to this particular invoice number, and under history it will show us that the purchasing information has been updated as it's now associated to an invoice number. Back on the Details tab, we can actually click on the invoice number to take us back to the purchase order list of invoices. And from here, we can, again, review the assignments, which will show, and as well as if we were to edit it, we can review the file that are associated to that invoice record. Thank you for watching this episode of Hardcat Feature Focus. If you want more information about the Hardcat purchasing module or more detailed information about the invoicing functionality, please contact the sales department at sales@hardcat.com, or alternatively, visit our website www.hardcat.com.